Let me ask you this. When was the last time you picked up a book, just for the fun of it? If you're like many people, reading probably took a back seat after you finished school. But why is that? Why does something that was once a major part of our daily lives suddenly feel like a chore? In this video, we're diving into why so many of us stop reading after we leave school, and, more importantly, how we can get back to loving books again. Whether it's feeling burnt out, being overwhelmed by life, or simply not knowing where to start, we're going to tackle all of it. If you've been wanting to read more but just can't seem to get into it, stick around. By the end of this video, you'll have fresh ways to bring reading back into your life, and maybe even discover a whole new way to enjoy it. Let's get started. Reason 1. Reading feels like a chore. After years of formal education, many people develop a sense of burnout when it comes to reading. This isn't just about feeling tired. It's about a deeper psychological shift that changes how you view books and reading in general. Several factors contribute to this mindset. First, there's the association of reading with pressure and stress. During school, reading is often linked to exams, deadlines, and the expectation to understand and analyze complex texts. This creates a mental connection between reading and work, making it hard to see reading as something enjoyable. Second, there's the issue of choice, or rather, the lack of it. In school, most of your reading is assigned. You might not be interested in the topics or the way the material is presented, but you're forced to read it anyway. Over time, this can lead to a subconscious belief that reading is something you do because you have to, not because you want to. Another factor is the sheer volume of reading required in academic settings. Whether it's textbooks, research papers, or assigned novels, the constant demand can feel overwhelming. This can lead to mental fatigue, where the idea of picking up a book, even a book of your own choosing, feels exhausting rather than exciting. There's also the problem of negative reinforcement. If reading is constantly associated with stress, frustration, or boredom, your brain starts to link these feelings with the act of reading itself. Over time, you might start to avoid reading altogether, simply because it triggers these unpleasant emotions. Finally, the rigid structure of academic reading can stifle creativity and personal connection. When you're reading to fulfill a requirement or to achieve a certain grade, it's easy to lose sight of the joy that comes from getting lost in a story or discovering something new. The focus shifts from the content of the book to the outcome of the reading, such as passing a test or writing a paper. These factors all contribute to the mindset that reading is a chore, a task that must be completed rather than a source of enjoyment. But it doesn't have to stay this way. Recognizing these patterns is the first step to breaking free from them. To overcome this burnout, it's important to change the way you approach reading. Start by choosing books that genuinely interest you without worrying about what you're supposed to read. Allow yourself to read at your own pace and focus on the pleasure of the experience rather than the outcome. Gradually, you can rebuild a positive relationship with reading where it becomes a source of relaxation and joy rather than a chore. Reason 2. You believe reading requires a lot of extra time. As life becomes more demanding after school, finding time to read can feel impossible. With jobs, family, social obligations, and endless to-do lists, reading often gets pushed to the bottom of your priorities. One of the biggest factors is the feeling that reading requires a large, uninterrupted block of time. Many people believe they need to sit down for an hour or more to really get into a book. But in reality, even small amounts of reading can be meaningful. It's all about changing the way we think about time and how we use it. Technology plays a role here too. With social media, streaming services, and other forms of entertainment readily available, it's easier to scroll through your phone or binge watch a series than it is to commit to reading a book. These activities offer quick rewards, while reading requires a bit more patience and focus. But here's the thing. Time is often about priorities, not availability. We make time for the things we truly value. The issue isn't always that we don't have time, but rather that reading doesn't feel urgent or important enough in the moment. Another factor is the fast-paced nature of modern life. We're constantly bombarded with information, and it feels like there's always something else to do. Reading, which requires focus and mental effort, can feel out of sync with this fast-moving lifestyle. In a world of multitasking, taking time to slow down and focus on a book may feel inefficient or even unproductive. To change this mindset, it's important to recognize that reading doesn't have to be time-consuming or overwhelming. You don't need to dedicate hours to reading each day to reap the benefits. Instead, think of reading as a habit you can build gradually. Start with just 10 to 15 minutes a day, whether it's in the morning, during your lunch break, or before bed. Audiobooks can also be a great way to fit reading into a busy schedule, allowing you to read while commuting, exercising, or doing chores. By shifting your perspective on time and making reading a small, consistent part of your routine, it can become a more natural and enjoyable part of your life, no matter how busy you are. Reason 3. Shift in priorities. After school, life changes in ways that pull your attention in different directions. Socializing, hobbies, work, and entertainment take center stage. It's easy for reading to slip down your list of priorities, especially when there are so many other ways to fill your time. One key factor here is the shift from structured learning to a more flexible lifestyle. In school, reading was built into your routine. It was something you had to do. Once that structure is gone, you're left to decide how to fill your free time. For many, reading doesn't feel as urgent or rewarding as other activities, like going out with friends, watching movies, or diving into a hobby. There's also the perception that reading is a passive activity, whereas other forms of entertainment, like video games or social media, offer instant feedback and interaction. With endless options for immediate gratification, picking up a book can seem like a slower, less exciting option. Another reason reading gets pushed aside is the pressure to be productive. In today's fast-paced world, there's often an emphasis on using time efficiently. Reading, especially fiction, might not seem as productive as working, learning new skills, or even networking. As a result, it's easy to convince yourself that reading isn't the best use of your time. But here's the truth. Reading can actually enhance other areas of your life. Whether you're looking to grow personally, expand your knowledge, or even just escape for a bit, books offer something unique that other forms of entertainment can't match. Reading isn't just about consuming information, it's about engaging your mind in a deeper way, whether you're learning something new or getting lost in a story. To overcome this shift in priorities, try finding books that align with your current interests. If you're passionate about your career, read books that can help you grow in that field. If you're into a particular hobby, explore books that delve deeper into it. You can also integrate reading with your social life by joining a book club or sharing what you're reading with friends. The key is to reframe reading as something that complements your life, not competes with it. When you make reading relevant to your current priorities, it becomes much easier to see it as a valuable and enjoyable use of your time. Reason 4. Lack of motivation. Without the structure of school, finding the motivation to read can be tough. In school, there were clear goals, assignments to complete, exams to pass. Once those external pressures are gone, the drive to pick up a book can fade away. One of the reasons for this lack of motivation is the absence of deadlines or immediate rewards. When you're not reading for a grade or a specific outcome, the act of reading can feel aimless. You might think, what's the point? Without a concrete goal or reason, it's easy to put off reading in favor of something that feels more urgent or rewarding in the short term. Another factor is that we often choose not to challenge ourselves when it comes to reading. If you're not motivated, picking up a difficult or dense book can seem daunting. You might start a book, struggle to get into it, and give up halfway through, reinforcing the idea that reading is hard or unfulfilling. Additionally, after years of academic reading, it's possible that the joy of reading has been buried under the weight of obligation. When reading is associated with work and pressure, it's hard to rediscover the pure enjoyment of getting lost in a story or learning something new. The key to overcoming this lack of motivation is to start small and focus on what genuinely interests you. Set manageable goals, like reading a few pages a day or finishing one book a month. You don't need to force yourself to tackle heavy or important books. Pick up something fun, engaging, or lighthearted that reignites your curiosity. Also, try creating a system of rewards or milestones for yourself. It can be as simple as setting a goal to read one chapter before you watch an episode of your favorite show. Over time, as reading becomes more of a habit, the motivation will come naturally. Another great way to stay motivated is to make reading social. Join a book club, either in person or online, or follow book communities on social media. Sharing your thoughts and discussing books with others can spark new excitement and keep you accountable. In the end, motivation isn't something that just happens. It's something you can build by making reading a part of your daily life in a way that feels enjoyable and rewarding. Start small, keep it fun, and watch as your love for reading comes back stronger than ever. Reason 5. Technology distractions. In today's digital world, it's harder than ever to focus on reading. With social media, video streaming, and endless entertainment options just a tap away, our attention is constantly pulled in different directions. Reading, which requires more focus and patience, often gets lost in the noise. One of the biggest issues is that screens offer instant gratification. Whether it's checking notifications, scrolling through social media, or watching a quick video, these activities give you an immediate sense of reward. Reading, on the other hand, is a slower process. The benefits, whether it's gaining knowledge or immersing yourself in a story, aren't as immediate, making it feel less appealing compared to the quick hits of dopamine we get from technology. Another factor is the way digital platforms are designed. Social media and other online spaces are engineered to keep us hooked, with endless scrolling and constant updates. These platforms train our brains to crave fast-paced, bite-sized content, which can make it harder to sit down and focus on a book. The idea of reading a full chapter or even a few pages can feel overwhelming when we're used to consuming information in snippets. Furthermore, technology has created a habit of multitasking. We're often doing multiple things at once, watching TV while scrolling on our phones, or working with a dozen tabs open. Reading, which demands full attention and deep focus, can feel out of place in this multitasking culture. It requires you to slow down and be present, which can feel difficult when you're accustomed to constant stimulation. However, technology doesn't have to be the enemy of reading. In fact, there are ways to use technology to your advantage. E-readers and reading apps can make books more accessible, allowing you to carry an entire library in your pocket. Audiobooks are another great option, letting you read while commuting, exercising, or doing household chores. The key is to create a balance between digital distractions and reading. Set specific times to unplug and immerse yourself in a book. Even 20 to 30 minutes of distraction-free reading can make a huge difference. You might also consider scheduling your reading time like you would for other activities. This way, it becomes part of your routine rather than something you do only when you have extra time. By managing your screen time and creating intentional space for reading, you can reclaim the focus and enjoyment that comes from getting lost in a good book. Remember, the benefits of reading, whether it's gaining new insights or simply relaxing, are well worth the effort. Reason 6. Your perception of reading is flawed. For many people, reading is often seen as something that's either too serious or purely academic. After years of being told what to read and how to interpret it, it's easy to fall into the mindset that reading is only for learning or work, rather than for enjoyment. This perception can rob reading of its fun and make it feel like a burden. One of the main reasons for this is that school tends to emphasize reading as a tool for productivity. You read to get a grade, write a paper, or pass an exam. Over time, this can make you associate reading with effort, stress, and the pressure to perform. Even after school, it's hard to shake the feeling that reading is something you should do, rather than something you want to do. Another issue is that some people believe reading has to be intellectual or important to be worth the time. This creates an unnecessary pressure to read heavy, complex books, which can make the act of reading feel intimidating or like a chore. If you think you have to read classics, dense nonfiction, or self-improvement books, it can suck the joy out of the experience. But here's the reality. Reading doesn't have to be serious. It doesn't have to be about learning or self-improvement unless you want it to be. Reading can simply be about pleasure, about escaping into a story, exploring new worlds, or just having fun with a lighthearted novel. Changing your perception of reading starts with letting go of the idea that books are only for serious purposes. Explore different genres that excite you. If you're into mysteries, dive into a thriller. If you love movies, try reading the book versions of your favorite films. If you're a fan of comics or graphic novels, those count too. The key is to choose what feels right for you, not what you think you should be reading. Another way to shift your perspective is to think of reading as a form of relaxation and entertainment. Just like watching a good TV show or movie, reading can be an enjoyable escape. It doesn't have to feel like work. When you find a book that draws you in, you'll realize that reading can be just as satisfying, if not more so, than other forms of entertainment. Finally, don't be afraid to experiment. Try out different authors, genres, or formats, like audiobooks or graphic novels, until you find what resonates with you. There's no right or wrong way to read, and the more you explore, the more likely you are to rediscover the joy that reading can bring. By shifting how you view reading, from a task to an enjoyable experience, you can reclaim the pleasure of getting lost in a book. It's all about making reading something you want to do, not something you feel like you have to do. Reason 7. You see reading as some lonely activity. Unlike watching a movie or playing a video game, reading is usually something you do alone. This can make it harder to stay engaged, especially for people who thrive on social interaction. But here's the thing. Reading doesn't have to be a completely solitary experience. In fact, there are many ways to make reading social, and doing so can reignite your love for books. Sharing your reading experience with others can add an extra layer of excitement and accountability. Book clubs are one of the most effective ways to turn reading into a social activity. Whether it's an in-person group or an online community, book clubs give you a chance to discuss what you've read, hear different perspectives, and even make new friends. The anticipation of discussing a book with others can be a great motivator to keep reading. And if you're not sure where to start, there are countless online book communities on platforms like Goodreads or Facebook. Another option is to buddy read with a friend. Pick a book together and set small goals, like reading a few chapters a week, then chat about it as you go. This can be a fun and low-pressure way to stay engaged with reading, while also bonding over a shared experience. Even if you prefer to read alone, there are ways to share your thoughts and connect with other readers, like joining book discussions on Reddit. This can turn reading into a more interactive experience. You'd be surprised how many people out there are eager to discuss the same books or topics you're passionate about. Making reading more social can transform it from a quiet, solitary task into a vibrant, shared experience. By connecting with others who enjoy books, you're likely to feel more motivated to keep reading, and you might even discover new genres, authors, and perspectives along the way. If this video helped you see reading in a new way, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. See you in the next video.